Hey, Meghann Scully, and this is the Limerick Post show. Coming up in today's show, the big interview is with co-founder of Zeminar and psychologist Damien Clarke. First up, though, the top stories in Limerick and the 2020 JP McManus Pro-Am in Adair Manor, which was due to take place in July, has been postponed to 2021. The golfing event was going to see many stars from the golfing world and the celebrity world all come together in Limerick to take part in the famous Pro-Am. Next up, there are new Garda regulations in place all weekend throughout Easter to stop people making non-essential journeys. You can read more about that right now up on our website, limerickpost.ie. Next up, though, to our Out and About section, and I chatted to a Limerick band, Pity of the Sea, and we have their brand new track as well. First up, though, Kirsten from Dance Limerick told me all about their brand new project. Welcome back to the Limerick Post show, and I'm delighted now to be joined by Kirsten from Dance Limerick. How are you getting on?
Good, how are you?
I'm really, really good. Now, the last time I was chatting to all you guys in Dance Limerick, I know you're preparing for a pretty special dance, but now obviously we've been put into this time of cocooning. You know, we can't meet up and dance anymore. Would you decide to do something a little bit differently? Can you tell me about your next project?
Sure, so the next project we'll be doing with our 50 plus dance group, we call them the High Kicks of Limerick, and anyone else who wants to join actually. We're going to be doing a virtual dance session basically. So over the next coming weeks, I'll be sending dance tutorials through emails, another tutorial on how to use Zoom, which is
brilliant.
I think all of us could use. And then we'll have some live sessions where all of us can dance together. Because of these times we can't be together, it would be nice to actually see people's faces and move at the same time. And then I'm going to teach everyone, again with another tutorial, on how to film themselves. Yep, and then they're going to send me those videos, and at the end I'm going to compile them all together with my limited skills, but learning fast, into a full performance video, and we're going to have a viewing party on May 15th.
That sounds absolutely incredible. It's such a good idea because, especially you said for all, I know it's for all age groups, but especially the 50 plus who are, a lot of them, they've been told to kind of stay indoors and, to really take self-isolation extremely seriously. So I think something like this, to get them active, to get them dancing, to get them moving, and to get them socializing on social media, it's so important right now.
It is, and not to feel isolated and alone, to know that we're in it together. And they are like my second family. We meet every Thursday between 2 and 3:30. And I miss them. They know more about my life than I think I do. So it'll be great to stay in contact and communicate, and especially just do what we love, which is dancing.
Absolutely incredible. And of course, there's a certain song you picked for it as well, which it's funny, since I read the email, I can't get it out of my head.
It's catchy. Yeah, so it's I Want to Dance with Somebody by Whitney Houston. Kind of looking to the future when we can get back into the studio and the dance floors and be with each other.
Yeah, I know. As I said, I suppose we don't know when this is going to happen, but I think it's great because I think now we've seen how powerful social media and technology really is, especially the likes of Zoom and being able to connect with people in this way. And, everyone's doing it now. Like, as you said, like everyone, we're all learning. I only got on Zoom last week for the first time. So, it's incredible to see what we're able to do now with once you have a laptop or a phone and a camera, you can go.
And that was one of the things, because we have a WhatsApp group and we share funny memes and videos and whatnot. But they were all a little scared because they think they don't know how to use technology, which I'd like to remind them they're on a WhatsApp group sharing videos. So they know more than they think. But it's as well as learning a dance step, they're learning a new technical tool to use with their family, extended family overseas maybe, or grandchildren. So they're going to be learning how to use this Zoom application on their computers and mobile devices.
It's absolutely incredible. Now, Kirsten, for anyone who wants to get involved, how do they get involved?
So if you want to get involved, it's actually starting today, but join anytime. If you email info@dancelimerick.ie, you can find out more information on their website as well, dancelimerick.com, I think.
Yeah, it's all, and you're all across social media as well.
It's all in social media, on their Facebook page, Instagram, Twitter. So just email, and then you'll join the emailing list and you'll get videos from me. And then again, once we have your details, we could add you to the WhatsApp group and just have fun.
That sounds absolutely incredible. Kristen, thank you so much from Dance Limerick. I hope you guys are all keeping safe and well, and I look forward to seeing the final dance at the very end.
Thank you, Meghann. You too.
So one of the reasons you're here to chat to us today is about a podcast that you've started. That's right, yeah. And in another guise, I'm a writer, and I particularly known for two books that I published. Kupla, which is here, and the second book, Catfish, which is here. So both of those books are on the new Junior Cycle Irish course. Kupla is a short novel, and Catfish is a collection of short stories. So I started a podcast. Well, actually, first of all, I was booked to visit a number of schools in April and May, and obviously with the COVID-19 crisis, I had to cancel all that. And I suppose, as a gesture to those schools and to all the students around the country who are studying my books, I said I'd start the podcast, and I suppose imagine that I was standing in front of maybe a year group in whatever school I was visiting, and to give them that kind of experience of the writer in schools experience virtually.
Well, it must be difficult going from speaking to an actual room of people to just speaking to a microphone. Did it take you a while to adjust to that?
It did, yeah. I don't know, am I still adjusted to it? But again, the experience in school of dealing with technology and iPads and all the different programs and recording programs. I'm involved a lot with drama in the school as well, and putting videos together and recording songs and things like that. So it wouldn't be totally alien to me.
And with the podcasts, how have they been received by the pupils?
The feedback I'm getting is very encouraging.
Yeah.
After the first podcast, there was very good feedback, and also very constructive feedback as regards maybe little bits of information that I could add to it, and in making the podcast shorter as well, because the first one I put out was about 20 minutes, which was maybe a bit long for a Junior Cert student, especially who's listening at home and has other distractions going on around them.
With the podcast, where can people find it? And I imagine it's open to everybody.
It is, yeah. It's free, and it's on Apple Podcasts now, and it's on Spotify, and it's on SoundCloud, and one or two other platforms. I think it might be on YouTube as well. But podcast dash Óige. So that's OGIE with a big O, and that's how people can come across it. And I suppose if people could give it a 5-star rating maybe, and write a little review underneath it, it'd be nice. There's a story from China when the coronavirus hit China, and the schools were all the teachers were using a certain app and to distribute the homework, and the kids quickly found out, of course, that if you give an app enough 1-star rating on the App Store, that the App Store automatically deletes the app.
You have to appreciate them banding together there and causing some kind of protest, you know. Óige, thanks very much for joining us, and
no problem.
I hope everything goes well with the podcast, and things hopefully get back to normal before the exams.
We're on a bit of a break at the moment for Easter, but after Easter it'll be back online again.
Lovely.
And I'm not sure will we be back in school, but whatever the situation is, we'll keep going with it anyways.
Exactly. Brilliant. Thanks a million. Have a good day.
No problem, Cian. Stay safe.
Delighted to be joined by Pity of the Sea, Tony and Ger. How are you getting on, lads?
Good. Flying at 12, doing great now.
Well, look, let's get straight into it. Tony, I'll start with you. Tell me about where in Limerick you're both from.
Well, I actually grew up in Dalgish Park, Myross, next to, I live right around the corner from Nolan Mike from the Cranberries, actually, funny enough. I grew up around the same time. Currently I'm living in Clonlara in County Clare, so I'm out in Clare at the moment, so yeah.
Ger, what part of the country are you from?
I'm Limerick City as well. Prospect up by the Army Barracks, not too far from the People's Park. I suppose the Yellow Road is the call it sometimes, the old Young Munster fans.
Oh yeah, the cookies.
Yeah, the cookies, yeah.
I do know it well. Right, so Tony, tell me about Pity of the Sea and how it all came together.
Yeah, Pity of the Sea. First of all, it started off just as an initial thing with myself and Ger, just having a bit of fun. We've always got on musically. We've always been chatting about music and always had the same influences and stuff. And Ger just approached me to produce a couple of his songs and said, would you mind working on a few of my songs? And it kind of developed into a full-blown act, I guess. Like so we decided to write together because I was really interested in what Ger was doing. And you know, I wanted to try some stuff that wasn't the norm because we do stuff kind of like in a different way. Or some of our songs are 7 or 8 minutes long. Some are 2 minutes long. So like it's all about the music. So like the two of us were very much like-minded like that. So everything everything is about what we want to hear in music. So that's what really intrigued me, I suppose, when I started working with Ger.
And of course now the debut album. Ger, can you talk me through the album and I suppose the writing process? Obviously now you've got it all finished, I suppose, before all this cocooning kicked in.
Yeah. Interestingly, our new single was kind of on the edge of the cocooning. It was really interesting, actually. We were kind of listening to stories as to possibly how bad the coronavirus was, and it was on the way. So myself and Tony being fairly careful about it. It was funny because I was kind of coming to the house with, gloves and kind of not wanting to touch much of the equipment in the recording studio and stuff. So for that song, it was kind of interesting. It just shows you it's so up to date. Like the single was only a couple of weeks ago. As regards to the album, yeah, it's been ongoing for a long time. We have Headscarf that came out last July and got really great kind of radio play nationally and kind of locally. So I was thrilled with that. And so that's one of. But really, it's kind of a year in the making, really, as such. As Tony said, we're loving the selection of kind of songs, kind of long and short songs, kind of up-tempo songs, and kind of more laid back. So it's been fantastic kind of process, kind of going through it all. Yeah, it's been a great process. Yeah.
Tony, tell us about the song that's out on Friday and the collaboration.
Yeah, the song out on Friday is called A Swarming. And the reason it's called A Swarming actually is kind of like towards the end of it, sounds like a swarming of bees, I guess, all the synths and stuff at the end of it. We don't mention a swarming once in it, but it's like there's a load of bees, so we call it that. It's a song I've had lying on my desktop for like about 2 or 3 years. Well, musically actually. So it was about a 5-minute jam I done that I edited down to about 2.5 minutes, and Ger put lyrics to it basically. That's how it came about. It's really easy and generic, you know. And as Ger said, we actually recorded it just right at the start of all this. We probably wouldn't have it out now. If it was a week later, we wouldn't have been able to get together. So we literally just got the vocals done before lockdown was a thing, you know.
So do tell us, what is the plan over the next couple of weeks? Obviously, we don't know when we're going to be able to go out. We don't know when you can go back on stage, when the pubs will be open, when all the gigs and stuff will be kicking off. So, is the plan the next 2 weeks to kind of just promote the songs online? Or are you going to do a few maybe live Zoom sessions or Instagram, or what's the plan?
I suppose we didn't have a plan coming into this, you know, so like everybody else. So we don't know. So our plan was actually we weren't going to put out these songs. We were going to wait for the whole album. Because the album would have been done shortly, you know. So we decided, look, we better do something. We better put out some songs. So we're going to put out this song this week, and next week we're putting out a song called Black Lines, which is a collaboration with Naive Ted, and that's coming out next Friday. So we just thought maybe while people are at home and stuff, it might be a good time to put out some songs, get them listening. You know, that's our way of dealing with it, I guess. You know, live performance might be difficult for us because our music is very much based on electronic stuff and all that. So we hadn't even thought about that really. You know, we were at the stage where we're going to rehearse for live gigs. So you know, yeah. Wait.
Ger, I'll have to ask, where do we find you guys on social media and online? Because now that we'll be here for the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, so all platforms, Pity of the Sea, so the usual Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. Lucky enough, it's one of those, I've heard you kind of an interview before, people trying to come up with original names for bands. Lucky enough, it's one again that is so unusual that, you know, it's kind of easy for people to find and stuff. So it's Pity of the Sea on all platforms, as I said, yeah.
Yeah, where did the name come from?
Interestingly enough, I suppose a lot of my inspiration comes from either art, which was kind of the headscarf idea. Was an Iranian artist had done an Eve exhibition actually it was in Edward Street in Limerick, one of the art galleries there, and I got my inspiration for that. A lot of the inspiration comes from either art or poetry or literature. Kevin Barry, the Limerick author, is a big influence on me. So this one, I suppose it came from the name of the band comes from actually a poem by Gerard Manley Hopkins, who I was kind of mad into in kind of school time. A lot of his poetry. And the actual poem is called "A Sea Took Pity." So I just kind of swapped it around a little bit. And lucky enough, as looking online, it's the norm that there is a band name there already. But lucky enough, it was kind of such an unusual one that it was kind of free. So it was great.
Absolutely incredible. Lads, do me a favour, will you introduce the song that I'm going to just play now, just give a snippet of it, and we can let the Limerick Post show viewers and listeners get a feel for what sort of music you produce.
Okay, so this is A Swarming by Pity of the Sea.
Pity of the Sea, thank you so much for chatting to us in the Limerick Post show, and you know what, when we're all back to normal and we've the studio back open, we'll get in together and we'll do a sit down together interview as well.
Great stuff.
So thanks very much.
Take care.
Joined by Damien Clarke, psychologist and co-founder of Zeminar. How are you getting on?
Good, yes, very good from a very quiet Dublin. I live in the middle of the city, in the city centre, and it is eerily quiet outside, so I feel like everybody else, strange times.
I've seen your Instagram and I've gone around, and I have to say all the artwork in the city is stunning, which you'd never notice when you were just walking around the busy streets.
I know. So I've had a little bit of time in my hands. I used that 30 minutes outside to try and do something productive, try and do something that helps me to take my mind off myself. So Instagram is a useful tool for that. I'm enjoying it, yeah.
I'm the same as well. Now let's get right into it. You were the co-founder of Zeminar, which we're going to touch on in a little while. But first of all, you're a psychologist. Can you tell me why you went down that route and why psychology?
Yeah, so my original background is actually marketing and Japanese. I did that at DCU. Yeah, a bit random. I spent a year in Tokyo and kind of worked in marketing for six, 7 years. I didn't really feel it at the time. Probably just didn't get into the right role. Went off to Australia to find myself and try and get into some altruistic work, and that didn't work. So I came home, and I'd always had sort of an inclination that I'd like to get into psychology, but I didn't back myself really. I didn't apply myself particularly well in the Leaving Cert, didn't get the points. So I suppose when I came back from Australia, I started to just try and get into different types of work, volunteer work. And one of the organizations I started to work with was the Samaritans. So I spent a bit of time there on helplines, listening to people throughout the country. And I just enjoyed the work. I just enjoyed being useful for the first time in what felt like a long time. So that was like my moment, my calling. So I decided to start from the start again. Went back to UCD, did a HTIP in psychology, which is like a fast track degree. And then luckily I applied for the doctorate in Trinity College in counselling psychology. So I'm way more interested in the the people side of stuff. The counselling was probably more suitable choice for me. I'm less interested in the assessment side of things, if I'm honest. So I worked my way through 3 years of a doctorate, did a thesis on social media and body image, which was really interesting, focusing on teenagers. So it's been a long road, but it's a really worthwhile road. So if anyone's out there interested in psychology, I thoroughly recommend it, but be prepared for a lot of hard work.
I like the way though you went down the marketing route first, did the Australia thing, so you just kind of shows that you don't need to make your mind up when you're in school. Like you can change career at any point. I think that's a lot of people think that they have to do a college course and that's it, but you don't. You can change every couple of years if you want.
Yeah, like so the average person's probably going to change their career 4 or 5 times now. I went back to college when I was 29, so I'd been out of college for 6 or 7 years at that stage, so I went back, and there's nothing wrong with that. Sometimes it might feel like a bit of a dent in the pride or the ego that you're going to have to go back, and you're watching people sort of go forward in their lives, but time passes. That's the way I was trying to say. Time passes, and the time will pass, and if you're doing something you don't enjoy, in 5 years time, if you don't change it, you're still going to be doing that thing. I understand that people have different commitments that they have to adhere to, but for me, I didn't have too many commitments other than finding something that I loved. So I was in that luxurious position of being able to sort of start from scratch and just go for it.
Absolutely incredible. And of course then Zeminar was born a couple of years ago. So for those that maybe probably have heard of Zeminar, I think a lot of people have heard of it. For those who don't know what it is, can you tell us about it?
Yes, so Zeminar is a national health and wellbeing conference for young people. We're going into our 5th year. We've brought over 65,000 teenagers to our event. There's 3 main features to the event. The first is that we bring lots of speakers who cover everything from mental health, equality, sexuality, bullying, cyberbullying, grief. We talk about everything at the event. Some of the speakers are very well known. Other speakers are experts who just want to share a positive message. The second feature is that we try and bring every mental health and wellbeing organization to the event, plus sports associations and hobby associations to come and showcase themselves so that young people can get connected to those organizations, get connected to the resources that are available to them, and also the teachers can get connected to the resources that are available. And the last feature then is we run workshops at the event. So these organizations run shorter workshops at the event. So instead of them having to try and travel throughout the country to meet all these young people, they run these workshops at the event. Plus there's a lot of fun at the event, a lot of music, dance, entertainment. People go seemingly in good form, and they come back every year. So by and large, we think it's a pretty cool event that young people seem to like.
It is a great event, and it's so good to think that for that age group to be kind of making mental health and well-being so important in their second level lives, and by the time they kind of go to university, they've learned maybe some really valuable tools. And I think it's so wonderful. And I know now it was due to be on here in Limerick with Blind Boy, and obviously it's been postponed given the circumstances. Is there any date maybe that you're going to reset, or you wait until all this passes to kind of finalize that?
I think like all we can say is it'll have to be the next academic year. So like it sounds like school isn't going to be back this side of the academic year, and I'm reading about the Leaving Cert and Junior Cert and how they're going to manage that. Seems like it's going to be quite difficult. So I would imagine that it's going to be definitely next year. So, but we want to come back to Limerick. We've had a great reception from teachers and young people in Limerick. We've had brilliant speakers from Limerick. The event we were going to was the concert hall in UL, which was going to be fantastic. So there's a great appetite in Limerick for us to come, and we're really keen to get it down to that part of the country. It was the first time we were going to host it outside of Dublin as well, so we're disappointed that we haven't got an opportunity to kind of showcase our event in Munster, but that will happen.
Yeah, you'll be back, don't worry, we can't wait for that moment. Now, something we're going to talk about today, which actually I hadn't heard this phrase until you'd said it, so I'm really interested, and I think it's going to help so many people during this coronavirus and this time of cocooning. It is health anxiety. Explain to me what exactly is health anxiety.
So you might have heard of sort of people being a hypochondriac or something like that. That's kind of the, like, people use that as a kind of a slaggy phrase sometimes, you know, that person's a hypochondriac, don't listen to them. But like, health anxiety is a really, really real thing that comes to my door quite regularly, where people have a preoccupation with a certain illness that they feel as though they might going to get, or sometimes they feel as though they have it already. Sometimes it's completely somatic, where they're imagining symptoms that they have, or sometimes they have a belief that they have an underlying illness and that they're convinced they have, and that sometimes even if they get medical reassurance, they're still convinced they have. So, for example, people might be convinced that they have a brain tumor, even though there's no evidence to support that. Or maybe someone is convinced they have cancer, and that could be because someone in their family had it before, or maybe they've read about something on the news. So they're convinced themselves that they have an illness. Very often they convince themselves that they have multiple illnesses throughout their life. So it goes from cancer to a brain tumor, and it moves on and on and on. So a really difficult thing for people to experience. I think in Ireland at the moment, a lot of people have a little bit of health anxiety. And I think when you're talking to people, so my work has moved from being face-to-face to phone support. And I would say that nearly every person I've contacted over the course of the week at some stage has convinced themselves that they have had the coronavirus. Yeah. And I think it's really interesting, because if we allow that to linger, then our symptoms get worse, and the symptoms are probably anxiety, and that can be very stressful. But I think what's really important is that we can all acknowledge that at some stage we're probably going to convince ourselves that we have coronavirus. If we talk about it a little bit more, you're going to be, I'm absolutely positive that if you talk about it more, you're going to feel better, because other people are feeling the same type of things around health anxiety right now. If you bottle up these feelings and these thoughts, they're going to get worse. You're going to feel worse. Your anxiety is going to increase. So I'm not talking about major solutions here. I'm just saying, have a chat with your friends about whether or not they have felt they've had symptoms at some stage during the last week or two. And I bet you they'll say, yeah. And that just kind of normalize it. And you get such a relief about talking to your friends about something like that. There's something just therapeutic about even having a conversation with your friends about, have you been feeling this way, or did you get any symptoms? And I bet you people would say, oh yeah, I had a bit of a runny nose there the other day, and I convinced myself I got coronavirus, and I didn't want to get out of bed. And then I started to worry, had I given it to anybody? And then I was, and then you can see how the worries just start to grow and grow and grow. And the more we worry, the worse we feel. So just air those thoughts that you have about how you're feeling with other people right now, and that will help.
Because I'm the same now. It's funny when someone mentions one of the symptoms, I'm like, have I got a temperature? I've got a headache? Have I got all these symptoms? But I have to kind of bring myself back, and I say to my friends too. And then I found really helpful was I read an article from a girl who had coronavirus and has recovered. Mm-hmm. And when I was reading about her symptoms, I was like, no, I haven't had all of them. I've just had like a little headache, or as you said, a little sniffle out for a walk. So I think, it is kind of frightening, because I think obviously the news is being so very informative, but also quite, I suppose it is quite stark and negative what's being shown to us. So I think that's what's kind of making us all nervous. And I think it's, as you said, talk about it, and kind of, if you have a headache, it could be just from sitting inside too long. Like, get out and get a bit of fresh air, have a glass of water.
That's it. So during the day, on a normal day, you are going to sniffle, you're going to have a headache, you're going to feel out of breath if you go up the stairs too quickly. You might have left the heating on. There's all these things that could lead you to think you have, coronavirus. The difference now, as opposed to previously, is that we focus on these symptoms. So we exclusively focus on, I have a headache. And instead of just letting that drift out of our consciousness, now we become very aware of it, and we focus on it, and we worry about it. So if you have these symptoms or a little feeling that seems a little bit unusual, just let it go. Don't try and focus on it throughout the day, because that's when you start to convince yourself there's something wrong with you. I even tested myself this week, because I had about 2 hours there, I think on Tuesday, where I had too much time on my hands, and I didn't prepare my day properly the night before. I just felt a little bit off, and those thoughts did creep in. I was like, God, am I feeling a little bit under the weather here? Is my throat a little bit sore? So I did my usual thing. I tested myself. I went out for a run. I put on some music that I like. by the time I came back from the run, had a shower, had some food, I totally forgot about how I felt. And that enough was proof that I was like, okay, hold on. These were just some thoughts that were making me feel anxious. But when I distracted myself for a period of time, there was nothing to worry about. So that just proves whether it's, real or not real as well. So sometimes I like to do these little tests for myself or with other people as well.
Yeah, actually, I was saying to you during the week, I wasn't feeling great like that. I forced myself to do a YouTube workout class, and afterwards I felt super exhausted, serotonin, and like
Exactly.
had a shower, had food, and I was like, oh, I'm actually fine. So yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
So things. Another thing I want to touch on before we go is procrastination. I was stumbling on that word.
Yeah.
For a lot of people, I think people who are working from home, students who are trying to study, I think anyone that's, even those who are to exam year who are trying to do classwork and, obviously aren't in the classroom environment, I think it's something a lot of people are struggling with.
Yeah, and I can totally accept that, and I fall into that category some days as well. There's so much content online at the moment which is suggesting we should be doing this and we should be doing this, and there's yoga, and there's also sometimes you almost feel like a bit under pressure that you should be really performing very well right now and you should be super on top of things. It's not that way. This is a very unusual time for everybody, so be compassionate with yourself. If you're not performing to your best, that's okay too. This is very unusual, but I find what helps me is to have a plan the night before. So if I wake up in the morning and I'm like, okay, what am I going to do today? I'll stay in bed a little bit longer. I'll start scrolling on my phone. Before you know it, it could be like 9:30 or 10:00, and that kind of sets the tone for the day. So for me to have a good day, it actually starts the day before. I make a list, a diary of what I'm going to do, and I try and stick to that as much as possible. So I put a bit of shape around that day, and that means when I wake up, I'm not looking into this kind of vast space for the day, which just feels empty and actually can feel a bit daunting or anxiety provoking in itself. I shape my day the day before. Yeah. Another thing that I find really helps for people is to prioritize what actually needs to be done today. And I make a list and I put 10 things down on the list, and then I'll categorize what actually needs to be done. And I'll list down in priority what needs to be done. And I'll start with the thing that actually has to be done. Very often things don't actually need to be done that day. They can be left for later. So I would always say, give yourself a break. But if something actually needs to be done, you will get it done. If it's not that important, it's okay to put it off a little bit. But procrastinating, I suppose, when we keep doing it, we kind of feel kind of negative about ourselves. I think that the hardest part is to start. But once you start, it feels good, and then that creates a bit of momentum. You get some sort of positive feedback in yourself from getting stuck into things. So make a list the night before, prioritize what needs to be done, and then just get started.
I suppose for parents probably with national school children, it's very important to make kind of a list of schoolwork, but also activities that kind of mix up the day so that they can kind of enjoy school time.
Yeah.
For secondary school kids, it's to kind of maybe pick out their subjects and maybe either change up. Would you advise to stick with one subject a day, or would you mix it up with maybe a few different subjects in the day?
Yeah, I suppose I get a sense that the schools are trying to follow the program that they typically run. So I would imagine that they're doing all of their subjects throughout the day. They're trying to follow a typical day. If you're a young person and you're able to be online and focus with your teacher from say 9 to 3:30, I think that's a fairly large chunk of your day being in front of technology already. At that stage, personally, I wouldn't be able to do much more in front of the computer or on my phone, after that kind of 6 or 7 hours, staring into a screen. That seems fairly excessive as it is. So if you're a young person and you're able to do that, then put down your technology and try and go for a walk, try and engage with your family, do jigsaws, whatever, try things that are a little bit different, learn the guitar, whatever. But I suppose it'd be difficult to be online for too much longer. But I suppose your question is, should we stick to the same subject or should we mix it up? It really depends on the person.
Brilliant. Damien,
No,
it's an absolute pleasure chatting to you, and I know we've got so much more we could talk about. So what we're going to do is we're going to ask parents, students to leave questions below this interview, and we're going to maybe get to them some other day as well and kind of do more personalised questions for people and answers.
That's right. Sounds good.
Before you go, where is the best place to find you across social media if anyone wants to interact, or Zeminar, yourself?
Yeah, just Zeminar.ie. We're fairly big on Twitter. We're pretty poor on Facebook and our Instagram, but we're always responding to things. So if you just search Zeminar in any of those platforms, we'll come up and we will get back to you. So if anyone has any questions, psychology based, happy to get back to your viewers, your listeners. So yeah, please do connect. If you're struggling with anything, happy to share my insights, thoughts, do a bit of signposting, whatever.
Absolutely incredible. Damien Clarke, thank you so much for chatting to the Limerick Post show today.
Thanks, Meghann.
Take
See you,
care.
bye.
For these stories and so much more, head over to limerickpost.ie/show. I'm Meghann Scully. This is the Limerick Post show, keeping Limerick posted. And remember, stay at home.